Tell me about Biloxi.
Honey, I felt lucky if I got a job in some little dance hall.
It's done with panache and craft, and it is true to itself, and it becomes moving. You who damn but give no comfort, why do I plead? Quite honestly, I don't like being me. I'd rather be somebody else.
Good God, what's come over you?
Even if in an entire movie there's only one scene that breaks your heart, you never forget it, ever. And when I was not at the movies, on Friday nights I was at the Liverpool Stadium watching the wrestling. Not for its pantomimic villainy, but for something more illicit. And in short, I was afraid. As I struggled with my adolescent desires, as I waited at the top of the aisle as the wrestlers swaggered up from the ring, their trunks tight across the buttocks, I could feel their body heat as I furtively touched a back or a thigh, choking with schoolboy guilt and trembling with the fear of the wrath of God.
Hello there, you're with Noah Cowan. I am the artistic director of Bell Lightbox here in the city of Toronto. My guest today is Terence Davies, one of the greatest filmmakers to emerge from Britain, although he'll be too modest to admit it. A true maverick, an independent before the word was fashionable. He's been making films since the 80s. Terence, welcome to Toronto.
Thank you.
Let's begin with your new film, Portrait of Liverpool, a place that you've spent a lot of your cinematic life. But an unusual film, neither a feature, nor properly a documentary, more like an essay film or a belles lettres, as the French might say. How did you come about to make this film, and what motivated it?
Well, it was quite by accident. One of the producers calls, and he said, this thing called Digital Departures is going to make 3 films in Liverpool, all for £250,000 each. Were you interested? And I said, no, I don't want to do another fiction. I said, no. I said, but what might be interesting is to do a documentary about the Liverpool that I grew up in, and knew, and contrast it with the Liverpool of today. But halfway through, I did have second thoughts. I thought, I've never done a documentary before. Perhaps I shouldn't do it. And I was on the verge of ringing him up and saying, look, you better find someone else. I've really got cold feet. And I was driving along the embankment in London. And the big thing that happened in most northern cities in Britain in the late 50s and early 60s was they pulled the slums down and rebuilt these huge estates which within 10 years became slums. But to everybody, including me and my family, it was the New Jerusalem. And I thought, if I contrast the pulling down of these old houses and contrasting them with these awful new estates, and if I run the folks who live on the hill underneath it, it'll work. I think I've got a film.
I would have liked to have worked on, but they threw me out because I was old. It's a sin to grow old, you know.
One of the great sadnesses for those of us who care about cinema is it's been almost 10 years since your last feature film, The House of Mirth. A triumph worldwide, critically lauded, extraordinary film, and then what happened? We haven't seen Terence Davies since.
Well, the climate in England changed, and it's still pretty bad. There are signs of hope, I think, but it was still pretty bad. What you've got now is not just politically, but culturally. We look for validation to America, where in fact we should be looking to Europe. And I'm not anti-American, but I want our culture to be separate. I don't want it to be homogenized and coarsened. And we look to America now, and you've got 25-year-olds who have done some media calls, or worse still, the Robert McKee course, which is unbelievably stupid. And then they'll say things like, we've got to have a climax on page 6. Or all characters have got to have background stories. I said, that will make it 4 hours long. Are you prepared to fund a 4-hour movie? Nothing. I said, well, have you seen Singing in the Rain? Yes. Do you remember Debbie Reynolds? Yes. What background story does she have as Kathy Selden? None. And we're still watching it 56 years later. Funny that. And you're treated as if you've just peed on the chips.
So it must be very heartening that Of Time in the City, which premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, had such a rapturous reaction and now seems to be distributed all throughout the world. And you seem to be back on the map. How does that feel?
Well, can't quite believe it. because it was made with the most modest of intentions. Truly it was, and a very, very modest budget. Of course it's wonderful. I mean, I'm as vain as anybody else. I like my ego massaged like anybody else. But it has come as a shock. Here was my whole world. Home, school, the movies, and God. You who damn but give no comfort, why do I plead? Why do you not respond, angel eyes?
I've been asking this question a lot lately. It seems that cinema now, its function in the world is to inspire passion in people, to inspire them through its ideas and to create emotions that they've never had before. You speak about this very eloquently, about your experience with films from the 50s especially. What emotions, what passions, what calls to action do you think your films should have on audiences?
Well, what it does seem to have done is capture a zeitgeist, to my amazement. What I hope it will entertain in the widest possible sense. But I hope more than anything that they'll think, no matter what their life has been, that it's worth it in the end. Because joy is worth having, even if it's transient, which it is. Suffering is never nice, but it too is transient. Just be humane, really. We've got to be humane. I don't think the film is saying that. I think it's telling us about the nature of the passing of time and aging. But that passage, in the end, has to be worthwhile. If it's not worthwhile, then we've almost betrayed ourselves in a way. And it's very easy to become bitter and envious. God knows I'm envious of men who are good looking. I am. That I have to fight with daily. I would hope, though, that it would give solace and to think at the end of the day it is worthwhile.